In recent years, the implementation of NIL has changed college sports. Jamie asks, do athletes who play military sports at military schools receive NIL money? Here's Victor Puente with the answer to that good question.
Well, no, they do not. In general, student athletes at the service academies cannot accept NIL money. That includes the service members who play football for Navy, Army, and Air Force. Technically, they are considered government employees. They're paid in part with tuition. West Point says, quote, West Point does not charge for room, board, or medical and dental coverage. Plus, cadets receive a salary covering all other fees, leaving them between $225 and $625 in monthly spending. And since they are members of the armed forces, they fall under the federal law that prohibits military members from using public office for private gain. Those regulations say in part, quote, an employee may not use their public office for their own private gain for the endorsement of any product, service, or enterprise, except as otherwise permitted by this part or other applicable laws or regulations, or for the private gain of friends, relatives, or persons with whom the employee is affiliated in a non-governmental capacity. So while they may be playing against athletes who have lucrative NIL deals, those service members are exempt from having them. If you have a good question, just email us. Goodquestion@WKYT.com. I'll see you on WKYT Mornings.